Okay. This is the Tuesday, August 30th meeting for the Town of St. John Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting. Going to start off the meeting just with a call to order. So I'm going to just say your name, just say present. Mike Moffett.
Here.
Dave Beasold.
Present.
Barb Tousley.
Present.
Vanessa Merkel.
Present.
Lauren Sustek.
Present.
All right. All right, and then if everyone could now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you everyone for being a part of the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee. Being this is the first meeting here for Tuesday, August 30th. Under the agenda, there's a list of new business items. So basically, we're just kind of go down the road and address each one. And you were all sent a packet through email, and then you should have also gotten a hard copy of the packet of the material. Anytime through it, let me know if you have any questions. Each individual item has its own individual memo as well that just lists basically my thoughts for that particular topic. And then again, these memos are also meant to kind of go back and forth with communication and stuff like that. So the first thing under new business is the Park Advisory Committee officers. So out of the 5, we have to name one chairperson, one vice chairperson, and one secretary, and then the other 2 people would be members. So would anybody would want to volunteer to be the chairperson?
I would like to nominate Mike Moffett. And the reason I'd like to nominate him is because he is from a past board. He understands the old business and the new. And I think he is our best person to, at least from a new start, to lead us. So that'll be a motion that I'll put before this advisory committee.
I'll second that for reason of discussion. Barb Tousley.
All right, and then I'll do a roll call on that. Dave?
Yes.
Barb?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Mike? No, yeah. All right, very good.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go that way.
Thank you.
All right, so then we need a vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Dave, I don't know how to say your last name, Beasold,
That's right. That's correct.
for vice chairman. Assistant, what's it called?
And then just a second.
Barb Tousley, I'll second that.
All right. All right, then there's a roll call. Dave?
Yes.
Barb?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
All right. And then last thing we need would be a secretary.
I'll volunteer for secretary. That's Lauren.
I'll second that.
Do we have to have a motion for that? I'm motion.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Make a motion that
That Lauren volunteers.
Lauren volunteer.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, then roll call. Dave?
Yes.
Barb?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
All right. All right. And then the other 2 members, other members of the committee would be members of the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting. All right, very good. I'm just going to continue on, if that's okay, for the first one. As we go to the next one, then since Mike, you would be the chairperson, you can go through each topic and whatnot. But for the first one, I'll just continue on as long as that's okay and stuff. So
Great.
all right, cool. All right, second item here, I have park inventory document. I have been just going through and reviewing all the parks that we have. In your packet there's a memo with the park inventory, just kind of explaining everything that I was kind of been going through. And then there's also, it was like a 54-page document, double-sided though, listing all of our parks, kind of listing ID numbers, acreage, walking path, connections within the park, playground status, and just the type of the park. If you read through it, you also will find accessibility levels, future goals, plans that necessarily I kind of came up with. I kind of incorporated, went through, or I did go through the 2018 to 2024 Park Master Plan. And the town 5-year plan too, and kind of went, input with that, and then input from each park what I thought needed if you're addressing, basically. In that plan, basically list every single park, and there's 23 overall that will list everything. And I have even the amenities I have down to the exact detail of the amenities, meaning how many garbage cans, picnic tables, so on and so forth. So this particular document is my plan, and I would like to have it to be our plan as we move forward as far as doing future plans, future capital improvement plans. And some of them are very simple as far as garbage can replacements. Some are a little larger, such as playground replacement. On the very back of the page of the document, I kind of list out each park, all 23 of the parks, and I kind of put them in order of what I thought would be a priority list based on overall appearance, based on how the playground looks, being a wood chipped type playground, older type equipment, or newer type equipment, and pour in place equipment. Obviously, if you don't know, over at the Gates, the Gates Park is a new playground that's going to be going in. So I had that at the end, for example, we wouldn't necessarily need to do anything with that particular playground. Also within those parks, obviously a lot of it has to do with the playground, but also looking at walking paths, connections, adding certain amenities, fixing certain areas, so on and so forth. And if you go through that report, you'll see each particular park, and I kind of list them out, and then kind of put it together. In a sense, I call it like a 22-year plan, and ideally, because it's replacing one playground a year, basically, in getting through a system that we could keep pace with. So in a sense, 22 years later, then we would have a schedule, per se, and stuff like that. So, I mean, the intent in this was, one was for information to let you know. I have heard from a few people, not up here, but saying they didn't realize there was 23 parks, and they didn't realize there were parks in these particular areas, but just to, it's our responsibility to go through them all and, put together a plan, for each particular park. So there's pictures on there too, just so you can kind of get an idea. They're kind of, the pictures are meant to kind of give you an idea of, 4 areas of the park, just to kind of give you an open space, playground. And there are certain amenities, Lake Hills, like the amphitheater, for example, and such. So, I would like for you guys, if you can look through it, please offer suggestions, changes, subtractions, additions, with it. And I would like to use that as we move forward, into a plan of, of improving, the parks down from the smallest thing as far as garbage cans to, larger thing as far as playgrounds. Or if it's a new addition like a pavilion, and so on and so forth. So, any questions? Any questions with that? And you can always email later, or I can obviously talk to you later with it too and stuff. And it's something I would want to try to bring each meeting or every other meeting at least, and just try to give certain updates. on that list too, as far as future, park projects, like I said, a lot of those were ones that I thought would be needed for the park. So that could be added to and subtracted to as well. Obviously, a lot has to do with funding too, if certain ones can be done or cannot be done, but just my initial idea. And that list I gave with the 22 parks and priority list, that could be changed obviously as well too. Certain parks could be moved up, moved down. That's just the initial look of each park that I've done so far. Yeah.
So basically, like, it says Lantern View Park, what you have there is what your goal is for that year. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, I would probably be more of like so when the next park master plan comes around, which would be 2025 or 2029, each year to start knocking those off. Yeah, it would be great to do all those goals for 1 year. Would that happen? No, I don't think it would happen.
I think I might have confused you when I said it. Because like on the list, the first one for next year would be Lantern View Park. So basically,
yes, correct.
so this is what you're hoping to get done.
Yeah, so
next year.
if you go look at a playground, start with that park. Okay, change out the playground, change the wood chips to pour in place. Yes, and at the same time, look at what else we can do to make it better and stuff like that. If it's adding, connecting walking paths
And then like the other stuff, are we trying to do a little bit here and there on those, or we're kind of wait until that year?
Well, the other stuff would be try to would put them smaller thing like garbage cans, like this, for example, purchasing 20 garbage cans, like for instance, that would, in a sense, maybe could cut out, 3 of the parks, so that would be one item off the list and stuff. Some of the smaller things would be budgeted into, some of the operating budget, some of the larger things being kind of budgeted into those capital projects. So the idea is when you kind of get to, the budget season and stuff like that, you can go back and say, hey, let's look here. This is what we were talking about. Let's put this in, into the budget. And again, that can change, subtract, add, as needed and such. So.
Sounds good.
I guess my only comment would be that I thought your inventory document was pretty complete, was pretty thorough. I like the fact that you addressed future needs. It was pretty self-explanatory as far as what you thought were, current needs and yeah, and even the master plan. I think that's something that probably a lot of people aren't aware of, that we try to think 4 or 5 years outside the box to be prepared for certain situations. So I appreciate it. Did a good job.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? And again, this always can be brought up at other meetings and whatnot, or feel free to email as well. Okay, I'll move on to item C there. Item C was the review agreement for a facility needs assessment. This was initially put on the agenda for the town meeting on last Wednesday, and then it was asked to table it to bring it to you guys first to take a look at. This is a facility need assessment agreement with American Structure Point. John Kennedy is here as well too. If you guys have any certain questions, he's here to to help answer them and such. But basically, this was been, I think, going on for a while. Going back to the springtime, I believe, right?
Yeah, this was actually brought before the council by the previous park superintendent. He had recommended that a needs assessment, be completed. They reached out to Structure Point, and again, John, if you want to come up and kind of give some insight. I know you kind of were working with Tyler before. How's your knee, by the way?
Thank you.
Good.
Good afternoon, John Kennedy with American Structure Point. American Structure Point is an engineering architectural firm based out of Indianapolis. We do have a local office in Maryville. So a needs assessment, when we were engaged by the town of St. John, there was discussion on would an existing facility work for the future goal of recreation or community center in the town. And in our discussions with the previous park director, we asked them, well, what are you looking for? What do you need? And it was sort of determined that They don't, there's a need to understand what that goal, the town needs. You know, does it need a senior room? Does it need, how many basketball courts? I know Lake Central basketball, Indians are very big. So what are the strengths the town has in recreation, community center, senior, or what are the needs, you know, pickleball courts? And so we would team with a group called Legacy Development Group, which would work with reviewing your existing park plans. What's out there already? Let's try to figure out what the baseline is. And then work with what we call stakeholders. Of course, Michael would be one, and representatives that Michael would think. But then some of the, you know, if there's a senior group, what their requirements are, what their needs are for the growth in the town, what some of the youth sports are, what their objectives are in the future, just like when you do a park plan. So this needs assessment would sort of determine how big or small a facility would need to be. How many courts, how many fields, what the vision is. And so this sort of puts everything in place to sort of give us a dimension of how big that building could be. Could it be worked into an existing facility here in town, or would a new one be required? And so this would give us that baseline on where to go and next steps. So this would be phase one. And then phase two, depending on what those needs are, how many courts, how many fields, how many rooms, we would then provide a sort of a block, a building dimension, and a cost estimate on what that would be. So you would have an understanding of the financial cost for that type of facility. So this is just phase one, just sort of say what the needs are for the town. And then that would get you, then phase two would be the next step of, we would sort of lay something out with a cost estimate. That would be phase two. Just so you understand, just some of our facilities, if you ever want to take a peek, we recently completed the Dean and Barbara White Maryville Community Center, which has 3 courts. It has a banquet facility. They wanted a banquet facility. Has multiple multi-use room. It has a workout facility. We did the Hammond Sportsplex, which has 6 basketball courts, 12 volleyball courts, walking track, a senior center, a community room as well. We've done multiple baseball fields. We've done everything from Whiting Lake, Whiting Park to Kokomo. So we have that in our wheel well, this type of work. And if anyone has grandkids or kids that go to Westfield to play soccer or softball, we were part of that team that did that massive recreational facility down in Westfield. So this is something that we do often and we do well. So with that, I answer any questions.
What will be your timetable, John?
So the first, reviewing your existing information would take a couple weeks. The big time frame, probably about 4 to 5 weeks, would be the stakeholder meeting. That's where everyone here in the town knows better than what our architects know, right? So we got to pick your brains. We got to get that information. So we're estimating that to be about a couple weeks, 4 weeks. And then what we would do then from that information, we would give a draft summary report, walk it through with Michael and team to sort of make sure we're on the right path, and then we would present a report probably about 9 weeks, 9 weeks, so about 2 to 3 months.
Would your stakeholders meeting be like a public meeting?
We would, I think that our approach would be, it would be one-on-one with those individuals or groups, that we would sit down with, you know, Lake Central, youth basketball, volleyball, the softball programs of the world. If you have senior organizations, senior groups within town, and just have one-on-ones with them and understand their goals. So that's how we see it happening.
Okay.
Have you worked with the town of St. John before?
American Structure Point is currently working on the Klein Avenue extension, so that is our project we're currently working on now. Just so you know my history, I'm a resident of 18 years in the town of St. John, so.
So I know the town has a $15 million bond issue anticipated in the 5-year plan for a community center. Obviously, that's probably not going to be coming up next year. And it was anticipated that they would be using park impact fee money for that project in terms of covering the debt service on that. This is step one in that process, correct? So we're a ways off before we get to that point. But, you know, $15 million is a lot of money. So we want to make sure we get it right. And maybe it's not 15, maybe it's 20. I mean, it's really going to depend where we go in the next few steps. This is the first step, as I understand this process. The next step, obviously, we've got a 5-year study that we have to do starting very soon, going into next year for the park impact fee money. So that way, any new development that's coming in will continue to pay those impact fees, so that way we can continue to develop, you know, a community center for the town of St. John. So there's a lot of, you know, stuff out there. So this is step one. You know, if this is, you know, what we want to do, obviously planning and preparing for stuff is better than just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. So
You took my comment out. It's
yeah.
such an important project. This is very important to set the groundwork, the foundation, because if not, you're shooting darts. You
Yeah.
don't know how many courts, you don't know how many fields, what's right, what's wrong. So doing this needs assessment, getting the, you know, the ideas from the residents and the sports facilities and the senior citizens, it's a very important part of the
Yeah,
process.
and I know before I came, I know that the Parks Department was kind of, you know, going back and forth on whether to buy a specific church and retrofit that. And I don't know what the appetite for that is, but, you know, I know that, you know, that just kind of, you know, went by the wayside. So, I mean, if that's something that, you know, is still viable, then, you know, that's viable. But I don't think buying an existing building and then trying to retrofit it would be the right way to go. But again, you don't know where you're going to go until you assess what the needs of the town are.
So I mean, I don't know how much you guys, so we went in the facility, the church that was being proposed, and if you need more than one court, that facility will not work. I can tell you now, the demand for sports facilities in all the communities are growing. It's not growing. So I would say St. John, because of its recent growth over the last 10 years, definitely needs more than one court. Ceilings need to be high. Volleyball is very big in St. John. They have a lot of teams, and they're very good. They're ranked #1 in Northwest Indiana right now. So you need ceiling heights that are minimum 22 to 24 feet. So there are certain requirements that we would like to see in a building. And then the facility that we would always look at would be multi-use. We want to get the most out of it. Other sports are becoming very popular, pickleball, lacrosse. So if we do an outdoor facility, we want to make sure it's good for soccer, football, lacrosse. Indoor facilities could be used for multi-use. We want to make sure it's a four-season facility. We don't want to only use during the fall for basketball and volleyball. We want to make sure there's activities that could be used during the summertime as well, so.
So as part of the assessment process, maybe not in phase 1, but maybe phase 2, would you be looking at how this is going to be staffed? Is this a private-public partnership kind of arrangement? I mean, what would that entail?
So Dean and Barbara White facility came in at around about a $21 million cost. We worked with the Dean and Barbara White Foundation, and we were able to secure $10 million to help with the operation and some of the costs for that facility. This would be something very similar we would do for this facility, is come up with game plans for potential funding mechanism. The Legacy Development Group also would help with staffing needs on how many, a director you would need a scheduler, you know, you would need a volleyball person, basketball, and so we would work through all that in future phases as we determine how many courts. So we would be able to then help you determine staffing needs as well.
And are you just, you know, working on the fact that the population currently in St. John in 5 years is going to drastically increase?
We would look at the demands that the sports or the community, the seniors have now, and we usually increase like a multiplier to that. And we would, you know, of course, look at the population growth that we would expect over the next 10 years. So, yeah.
Considering we're building 400 homes that way.
No, I'm very, I used to coach Lake Central AAU basketball, and I know during the summer, fall, that every middle school, every high school gym was always, you couldn't find an extra gym if you wanted extra practice time, and volleyball is even more demand than basketball, so,
I had a question.
yeah, absolutely.
So like, I'm not in any hurry at all, just kind of like a timeline. You said like a 5-year for that bond, so it would be like 5 years, and you'd probably break ground about that time?
Well, I mean, it depends on, the timing of this study, the next study, and then, what our plans are, because obviously we'll have to have architectural plans, engineering done on that.
And that would take about, so say this takes a couple months, 3 months, and then we come up, and then phase 2 would be, okay, you sort of know what our needs are within the town. What does that facility need to look like? So we would start to develop a sort of a rough schematic of how many courts, what other facilities that the town would be looking for, a senior build room, and things like that. And then we would then, at that time, be able to give the town a cost estimate on what that facility would cost. And then at that time, the town would have to make, see what their goal and objective is. And then for us to design it would take probably about 9 months to a year to design it, to make sure, and then you're talking about a good year or two construction. So there's still time. I mean, it's.
And
it's
then
not
within
a-
all of that time frame, you've got, going out for bond and all that, you're looking at a good year for that.
So it's a good 5 year.
It's at least 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if everything flew through just perfect.
Yeah, Maryville, I apologize, I know St. John is not Maryville, but it's a good example. It took about 3 years from start to finish, but, they were quite aggressive. They had their financing, they knew what they were using and how much, so that it was, while we were designing it, they were going through the bonding at the same time, and so that expedited the process, and then, once they got the money, they were turning dirt, so.
I have a quick question, kind of changing gears slightly, or changing gears back, just talking about the needs assessment. I just want to make sure that we wouldn't miss any of the stakeholders. Have you used any kind of surveys in the past? Because I know one-on-one, maybe you miss some, I don't want to miss anybody.
We, for this, we have not proposed that because just of the sheer magnitude of doing a survey, either electronically, and then someone needs to correlate that information. So we do not have that in our scope of work to put that type of survey out, whether it's electronically or in the utility bill and that kind of information. So we have not, that is not in this scope of work to do it like that.
Did Maryville do something like that? How did they handle contacting their stakeholders?
They did, they had the programming all in place by another firm. And their firm estimated the budget to be like $35 million, so they were a little hesitant, but they brought us on, and so we just sort of reviewed their programming that they already had in place, cleaned it up a little bit, and then, so from my understanding, they just talked to local stakeholders. They did not do a survey.
Did not? Okay, they did one-on-one, like you
They
were
did
mentioning.
one-on-one, right.
And you feel that's enough to make sure you get a good feel for every group?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this would be not to exceed $20,000 for this. So ultimately, if you want to review it a little bit more, that's fine. If you want to, we could do a motion to make a recommendation to, put it on the council report for their September meeting, if you'd like to do that. Ultimately, we'll go to them for, to approve and stuff. So whatever you guys would like to do, if you want to think about it a little more, that's fine. Or if you want to do it now, we could.
Could I ask, I would prefer if it was okay with the committee, you guys to digest that first before you gave it a recommendation to the council. Digest it and maybe come back to next meeting. I would ask if you would consider that, please.
And we'd be looking at October.
Yeah.
For the council meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's fine.
Before,
So,
before the next your next committee meeting,
yeah, it was September 27th, so.
yeah.
Give you a little more, while longer to think of questions you have not thought of today, and better have more time and move, more careful.
And congratulations, by the way, for your appointments.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so next thing on here is possible disc golf course over at Heartland Park and Patno Park. So recently have met with just a local professional disc golf player, and about a disc golf course, basically. There's not too many around the area. Disc golf is more in those, I would say, growing sports and stuff like that. Something that we don't have. We don't need a whole lot besides room. That's really the biggest thing that you would need and stuff like that. Anyway, from talking with him, we met on site and we talked on the phone. I asked him to see if he can just come up with a plan, and then wanted just to share it with you guys and see what you thought. If you look at the map that I have on there, this kind of shows a 9-hole course, basically, a combination between the two parks, basically starting over by the volleyball courts, and then going across to Patno Park, nearby the Garden, and then going around the Babe Ruth fields and then into that little open area between the Babe Ruth field and the softball complex. I put on here between 5 and 6K, but actually that should be more than to 10 to 11,000 for 9-hole. My calculations on there initially were for 6-hole. But basically, expenses for this would be building a concrete pads, 4x7 type concrete pad, and then installing disc golf tees, baskets over in the red areas that are shown on the map. As you can see on the map too, it was about 2,420 total distance. These are not exact locations or anything like that. This is just an initial rough sketch, basically, of what I was kind of going back and forth with the individual. This would be just an added amenity more than anything else. Similar to building the completion of the skate park that we have going on, or playgrounds, the ball fields, just something extra, something new. Not necessarily high cost either. Maintenance on it would be nothing more than the grass, more so, which we already do. So, so this was just an initial course that came up with, talked to him here during the month of August, pretty much, and just kind of wanted to bring it forward to you guys and have you look at it and see if you had any initial questions or any dislikes with it or anything like that. This would be more of a beginner style course, maybe early intermediate, but more family friendly. As you can see with the open spaces, there's not too many not too many obstacles till you would get to like 7 and 8 and even 9 on the holes over at in between the softball complex and the Babe Ruth field. But this was an idea that I had and just wanted to see what you guys thought.
I like the idea, because you're using just open space and nothing's really there.
Yeah, we're not building on these areas. Only other thing could possibly would be trees or something like that you can add to it. But this is just would be it's a usable recreation open green space.
I know at Sherwood on their 9-hole course, there's quite a bit of the people come and use the kickball thing there that they have right along with the 9-hole golf. They're constantly getting in the way of us golfers. So those type of things obviously are quite popular around.
I think my only comment would be, I have played the Lemon Tree or Lemon Lake disc course. It's quite involved. It's also very widespread. Mm-hmm. And I think your biggest challenge here would be coordinating time so that you could do both. Because if there's other activities, sand volleyball, baseball, softball going on, that's not going to work because you're going to have frisbees flying all over the place.
I mean, it, like, the first hole, like, that would have to be moved over a little more, especially with, but next to the sand volleyball. The parking lot, obviously, the weekends get pretty backed up with hockey and baseball and softball going on and stuff. Yeah, I mean, definitely would be, you know, that would be a battle for sure. No about that. And I would, what I would do then, is kind of go back with it, talk with the professional again, get his thoughts and kind of even make it more fine tuned, where exactly it would be and stuff to try to, get out of that volleyball way. Even the, like the Babe Ruth, I like the whole six kind of going behind Babe Ruth there, just because the trees are there and stuff like that. But, and the other thing would just, signage would be the other thing of kind of directing where to go. Cause you would, necessarily you don't want to, the other thing would be running over White Oak Avenue, right? You should take the path in a sense, kind of up to where the connection and the sidewalk would be, ideally. So, there would have to be a little, signage with it and kind of showing exactly this is the route, to take and stuff. So.
Yeah, I would say I really like the idea, but the one dislike would be to inviting, especially younger kids, to be crossing White Oak, not at the path. That would be the biggest concern.
Yeah.
If we were to do the 9
Yeah.
and 3 across the street, but otherwise this is great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go back to it and fine tune it a little bit more, and then talk about it next month and even the one after that too, if needed to be, and kind of go from there. But good, great.
Is there another large park that we may have to put it in? Because this one's so busy with all sorts of activities, and this is a great activity, it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have another one that would be large that it possibly can go in and kind of get more use out of another park there that we have got?
I mean, the other larger ones, like Prairie West, which there's open space there, that you can do. The problem with that one might be more parking more than anything else, but kind of hit or miss. You could do it, the other largest one we have would be Civic Park, but the same thing, you have the baseball primarily with that over there.
At Lake Hills?
The gates, over there too, maybe wouldn't be as many obstacles, but you have the open space, but then you maybe eliminate more of the soccer fields, kind of over in that area.
Wouldn't Lake Hills fill some of that?
Lake Hills is a big park too.
Lake Hills would definitely give it more of a wooded area, obviously, and a little more obstacles,
But it has plenty of parking
It
and
has parking though, yeah, and it has the street parking too, if you need it.
It was an
too,
old
so.
golf course.
it was an old golf course.
Yeah,
Bring back those old roots.
yeah.
Kind of ironic.
Okay, yeah, I'll look at some of the other ones too though, and then,
Just a thought.
yeah, and throw it back out there, so. All right, well, good, fantastic. All right, this next one was the review of Tree City USA. I wanted to, one goal I had, and I believe I mentioned in the park inventory stuff document, but I wanted to look at St. John becoming a tree city, which we are not currently. I also wanted to look into American in Bloom as well, which is kind of a beautification type, projects and stuff, for St. John as well. American in Bloom comes a little more scoring and there's judges and all that stuff. But now I looked in a little bit into Tree City, and I actually did find that we do have an ordinance that was passed in 2015 about a tree board and tree care, which is good. That's one requirement for Tree City. However, I don't believe we don't have a board per se. A department can also control that as well. So number one, I was actually going to try to volunteer out you guys to be the tree board.
Of course you would.
To help start this. Obviously, the Parks Department would be involved in it, as and we obviously would need assistance with Public Works, as well. So there's 4 things on the application, which they do start in September, and I was going to start it and see where it goes here for for 2023. The tree board department, which we already have the ordinances, and department obviously. The next thing would be the annual budget, which we necessarily don't have a tree budget, but that also entails going into just the park operating budget as far as, tree purchasing, tree care stuff, that can tie in with that budget. As we move into the future, that's something we can look at as, making something separate, I guess, as well. According to Tree City USA, it's supposed to be $2 per capita. And it does mention that in the current ordinance that was done in 2015. And it is mentioned that the tree board can also, make a recommendation, budget recommendation, obviously to the council as well and stuff. The last thing on the application was the Arbor Day observation and proclamation, which I know we didn't do anything this past year for Arbor Day. This year I was going to plan on trying to do, even I know some towns do giveaways of like little seedlings. I was going to plan on purchasing some seedlings to give away. The seedlings they're like little whips, basically. They look like they're dead trees, but they're alive. And they will work if you care for them good enough. They will live. But then, and also ask, that the council do a proclamation, in the springtime. Arbor Day is the last Friday in April, just so you know and stuff. So, to help with this, and I know the Parks Department in the spring did a community tree program grant with NERC, and I did apply for a NERC tree grant for the fall as well. Those trees went to the Gates Park in the spring, and then actually I was looking to try to do some plantings around the walking path area at Patno Park or by the garden area as well. And when we do some of the tree plantings, and basically the idea is to go in those open areas that would be near the walking paths, playgrounds for added shade. I did not include in this packet, but I did. I forgot what the name is now. There's about trees though, and it's a national. It's geoplanting, I want to say it was, and they did give me a score of St. John. I'll email this to you because I know I'm not saying it the right way and stuff like that, but I believe we were a score of like 72% as far as our overall tree canopy and stuff. I'll forward it on so you can see it. It's a little more in depth than what I'm explaining and stuff like that, but I didn't have it on here and stuff. But anyway, just any comments or concerns with either the Tree City, want to make sure we would all be on board, being the tree board per se. And then I do plan on doing these community tree NERC programs. Cause they're just grants and they give away 1 inch to 1 inch half caliber trees, and they're pretty decent trees. Mm-hmm. And they do survive if treated well. The fall usually is the best time to plant because just it's cooler. I've had experience of doing them in the fall and we've done great. I've experienced of doing the spring and it's done terrible in the spring just because it could get warmer and stuff. Water is always an issue, obviously, and stuff. But there's also a urban forestry grant with IDNR that I was looking at as well to start incorporating. Those are every other year grants, with the town as well. So ultimately, would help us to become that tree city, basically. So. So yeah, any comments on that?
Sounds like a good idea. Sure, a lot of the organizations in town would assist in that.
Yeah, I know. Even talking with the community garden, the members out there, they were asking for like shade trees over there, like for instance, and they're like, I'll be happy to help with planting if that's needed. So there's definitely the help is there. It's just, a matter of doing it and such. So okay. All right, so the last thing I had under the items here was just some miscellaneous items, and these were basically just kind of updates. The park at Founders Park is still under construction out there. They've started asphalting the walking path. We do got to kind of go back. We're going back and forth right now in the parking lot. I'm actually supposed to meet with them out there again tomorrow. But the playground is in, and the pour in place material should be in here soon. Is now the path for the the path that goes through Founder's Park is that one is in. Over at Gates Park, let's start with the playground first. The playground is going very fast and is almost done. I think the majority of the play structure is up there already and now is just doing the pour in place. We did add putting in a connecting sidewalk up to the playground, which wasn't there before. And then we have some bench pads going out there as well for park benches. The skate park is pretty much done, minus the landscaping work. And there's, at the last council meeting, they okayed the pouring of the concrete inside the existing pump track. I know it was also announced about the meeting the grand opening on Saturday the 10th. So I think I put in your packet the flyer so you can see it and stuff. As of right now, it's been Spawn Ranch has been planning September the 10th as far as an opening from 12 to 4 over with the Gates Skate Park. They would be bringing in a pro skater, some giveaways, and providing a generator for a DJ is one suggestion. The one thing they had brought up too, we were going to possibly look into paying for the DJ, portable restrooms, and I think that was it on our end, basically. Oh, and scissors and all that stuff, ribbons and all that, ribbons to cut and stuff. So I know we just wanted to bring it to you so you can see it. It's pretty much out there for the 10th. So if you want to make sure there was no issues or anything like that with anyone, and if obviously everyone would be invited, and probably the people who worked on it in the past, as well, rightfully so.
Could I ask you a question about that real quick?
Yeah.
The concrete to pump track, what was that?
So the pump
That
track
all
only
concrete?
had grass in it.
Cool.
As opposed to dirt.
Yeah, had grass. Yeah, it was going to be.
Well, I was wondering, like, is that all going to wash away? So
Yeah,
that would all be concrete.
It's
Okay.
it's a pretty narrow section too, so, and it's kind of got some terrain to it, so we priced out, the little bouncy stuff at the playgrounds. What do you call that? Pour in
place.
Pour
It
and
was
play,
about
yeah.
it was like inch and a half of pour in place and inch and a quarter of turf.
Yeah,
to make
that
it
was
look green.
$50,000.
Yeah.
You know, it's big bucks for that.
Which, that was quite high. So the contractor that's currently doing the other side of the Gates Park concrete work came out there and gave us a quote for the $20,000. One of the guys that was doing the installation from Spawn Ranch gave us a quote for $27,000. It was a verbal quote, but he still gave us a quote on it. But yeah, so the council did approve to go ahead and get that concreted, which made sense. That was a recommendation by,
Hard to clean it.
yeah,
or
the guys at
cut it or
Spawn
whatever.
Ranch. It just made sense to get that kind of filled in and not have to maintain it. Bringing mowers and stuff across that, is just going to be a lot. So,
Yeah. And it's supposed to be a rough concrete as far as just to try to make sure people don't skate across it. And you could, but
yeah, and they are going to tie it in with rebar into the existing pump track, so it'll be one, integral part, just pretty much like the rest of the tracks are. So, yeah.
And one other, you said portable restrooms. Could this be something you put on, I know they're portable, but could they be permanent? Kind of like how we do the baseball fields? Like, could we put one or two out there? It might already be out there.
like a permanent portable restroom.
Right, cause I know I saw somewhere in there that like a future plan is to put a permanent one. But like at
Yeah,
all the
like
baseball
a
fields, we have like one or two
Permanent
of
ones.
the portables.
Yeah, so like actually going back to that inventory list, there's a few places that I know are permanent that are out there. I would want to put like a concrete pad underneath there, even build an enclosure, just to kind of hide it, from the residents, just make it a little more aesthetically pleasing and stuff. more than
I
anything
mean,
else.
that's what I know Winfield
Yeah.
has that now. They put the
Yeah.
little enclosure around there
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But yeah, yes. I mean, for as many people to be out there, yeah,
Right, because I know the Babe Ruth field, there's two of them out there 'cause there's so
Yes.
many people.
Yeah.
And those are just the green ones that, we get a bad storm, they blow over or whatever. But
Yeah.
at least there's something out there because from what I'm seeing, it sounds like there's a lot of people that are
Oh, yeah.
using it.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot. There's yeah, there's, somebody came yesterday even, when I was out there last night, or like 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock yesterday, and they were like, I didn't even know I was here, and he was videotaping himself like running down the, the slopes and stuff, and, you know, but like in a good way, you know, passing it on to his skater friends and stuff, so.
And then the landscape, is that,
So actually,
that's happening now?
yeah,
or-
actually, so right now with the concrete, actually, so talking with the company, like I said, they're also doing the playground project over there too. So I did ask them to hurry, in a sense, hurry up a little bit and start going over there first before they start doing concrete work on the Gates side or the playground side. So as of Sunday night, he had told me that they were planning on being out there Friday and Saturday. He said that was depending on rain. I don't know if he had one other project that he could complete first before he was going to start over at the skate park. So I know it rained a little bit yesterday. I don't know if that pushed him off or anything like that. But as of right now, he was planning on going out there Friday and Saturday, and then he would basically. He said he should be, if he starts Friday and Saturday, should be close by Thursday, that next Thursday, of being complete. But that was depending on the rain. I know it rained a little bit yesterday, so I've not. I'll talk to him tomorrow to see if where he would be at. But and then the landscaping was not going to start until they did the concrete work. So as of right now, they were tentatively scheduled for the 12th, September 12th, to come out there and do the grass work. The conduit in there, that was in the plan too for the future lighting. That is in. They've been working on that. If you go out there now, you'll see the trench and you can see the conduit being in there and stuff. So, so they were waiting for that, and then the concrete, and so. But yeah, the 12th of September right now is the tentative schedule for the landscape people to come back out. But they're going to wait until after the concrete guys were out.
Nice.
So yeah. The other item I had on here was just to kind of put on the radar more than anything else. I don't know if, I'm not sure if the park board in the past had looked at this or whatnot, but there is a grant called the National Fitness Campaign, and I do think it would be a great thing actually at Prairie West Park. But this is basically a 38 by 38 fitness court, and it's a $30,000 grant. The project itself probably will be anywhere from 140 to 175, but if I don't know if you look in that website I sent you guys too, you know, it can kind of give you more information. But I know, especially nowadays, fitness being a high priority, these are like pull-up bars, boxes, you know, all meshed in with the concrete and stuff like that, so nothing's taken away or anything like that. But I do think this would be something worthwhile here sometime in the future. And they've been doing this for the past I've known about it for the past 4 years. This goes back, I think, to the 70s and stuff. But take a look at it. Take a look at the link. Obviously, is 140 to 175 is a big chunk of change and stuff like that. But I think this could be a possible future amenity here for the town. I think would be a good thing. And especially at Prairie West Park, I think, because there's some open space over there. There's a walking path, the playground, so a mom or dad could go on the court and have their kids go on the playground if they if they wanted to, kind of the same thing. So, or it can go anywhere else too, obviously. But take a look. I met with them twice already, and I've kind of had it just on the radar here for some point in the future. So, and then just the last thing I had was Larimer Park. They're supposed to be getting new backstops over at Larimer Park here in the next few weeks. And that's all I have. So. Okay. The next thing I have on here is just reports. Joe, I don't know if you have anything in particular.
Just a quick thing. The town council approved the parks rules ordinance at their last meeting. We also have the skate park rules that need to be considered, that need to go before the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for them to review. I don't know if that's something you've reached out to them on already, or what the status is of that.
To the lawyers, basically, they were talking about?
Well, I mean, for the skate park, so.
Yeah, well, I have I made up rules. I was just.
I don't know if
waiting.
you were going back and forth with Nicole on that, or.
Not yet, not since the last, I'll follow up with her.
Okay.
Not yet. I know she suggested some changes on it and stuff like
Yeah.
that, so it's fine. So I'll work with her, and then I'll forward them, everyone to you, just in the packet, for September.
Yeah, and then the signs for the skate park, are those
Yeah,
ordered?
the skate your own risk signs.
Right.
Will be in probably next week, I think. And then, I will order the, skate park actual, rural signs and stuff like that,
Once we get everything
Yeah,
established?
yeah.
Okay, good.
But, they should be in next week. I did order those a few weeks back, actually, so.
And I know you were getting some quotes for the lighting and security cameras too, right?
Yeah, actually, I did talk to Musco Lighting, and I've scheduled they're gonna come out and here, middle of September is when
Okay.
they can get out here. So they're gonna be out here, and we're gonna kind of go over everything for the lighting, which I know they were already somewhat aware of. They are aware of the project, and they knew
Right.
about it, so should be, depending on the pricing and stuff like that, obviously, but should be an easy transition.
Yeah, and they had two items left, the finish grade landscaping and then the conduit,
Yes.
which was not in yet.
Well, it's mostly in, if you go there now, I mean, actually, I was just there yesterday.
Okay, so they did,
The conduit actually is in. It's still, you can see it. It's trenched and the stuff's actually in the ground.
all right, so they're all stubbed out then?
Yeah, I think except for the closest on the parking lot side, close, not by the housing side, but the other side, I think they had to finish a little bit more, but majority of it has
Okay.
been, yeah. Okay. All right, and then town council liaison?
So I have a few things. So I love the idea of applying for more grants, and of course, grants are generally mean we have to spend money as well.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, everybody needs to have skin in the game to make people responsible. I think that leads me to the thought of maybe us all understanding our budgets. So if it's possible to get the clerk treasurer to get our current budget, 2022 budget to the Parks Committee, and we're working on 2023. We're not quite done, we're almost done. And as soon as we're done with that, we'll make sure you get a copy of that as well, so we can make, good, sound financial decisions. Also, next year, or this year, we had several additional events in the park. We'd like to do more next year. Wouldn't it be great to add to that? The clerk treasurer is sponsoring a movie in the park. The Parks Department has a movie in the park coming up as well. It'd be nice to operate as one unit going forward. It'd be nice to have more of those and understanding our budget and maximizing the enjoyment for our families and residents would be the goal of that. So understanding that. Also, it's not too early to think about, because it took us a long time, right, to get our Freedom Fest going. It's probably not too early in the process to start securing the date, and maybe next couple meetings maybe even next meeting, we should talk about securing a date and how we're going to deal with that process. That was a big lift. So just maybe thinking about a calendar and events and setting next year. And working on that process. That would be my ask of the committee, to work on some of those projects. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, if I might, now that you've approved these rules or guidelines, have we come up with a recommendation for length of term
For
this advisory board, based on
Yes.
how it's appointed here?
Yes, it's in here.
No, I know it's here. I'm wondering who
Who is what?
is what.
Part of the council motion.
Yeah.
So it was in there. It wasn't a council.
Because it's not here.
Yeah, it was in the council motion, so we'll get that for you
We make
guys.
sure we give it to you. So So it's staggered terms. Some here today have 1-year terms, some have 2-year terms. So we'll make sure you get that information.
Yeah, that was in the council motion for
Okay.
the members.
Yeah, I know, that's why I'm just asking, I thought maybe we'd have something here, but
We'll
no.
get that, I'll make sure Anastasia gets that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Then after that, what is it, 2 years for everybody? Is that how that works, or?
I think that sounds right. Does that sound right?
It's 2 and 2, yeah. The first one expires December 31st this year.
Those will re-up at 2 years.
Yeah.
So basically, for now, we're looking at 5 months and
A year and a half.
17 months.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Any other committee members? Any reports?
I have 2 questions. First is, in the previous board that I served on in a different town, we had an ordinance, and I'm not aware of one here in this town, that all new development was mandatory green space. And by mandatory green space, I mean set aside parks space, not necessarily develop it, but pay, space to put a park in, and I'm just gonna use the preserves as a 3-phase, entity that's a 10-year plus build-out, or the Continental here where we're looking to put $1 million homes. I think they might have a problem if they don't have what I would consider to be a local park. Now, I don't know if there's an ordinance that currently exists, but where I came from, it was 3 to 5% of total space. Meaning if you built something on 100 square acres, you needed to come up with 3 to 5 acres of green space in that new development so that there was room for a park, and it had to be designated as such. Whether or not it was ever built upon, but I mean, it was there for the use of, future.
That's how we got 23 parks.
I came from one that had 47.
The preserve does have
Crazy.
a park, a community
Okay.
park.
Yeah.
Okay, well, but that's what I'm just,
Not, I mean, people can argue that it might not be enough space for all of the homes, but there
Right.
is a community park in there.
right, I just use them as an example. I've not been through there, but I know it's got a walking path or a bike path, and boy, it'd sure be nice if there was a place with parking for people to stop and use. I mean, because it's a pretty high-end area. I think that should be, in my opinion, that should be just something that should be.
Was that the builder's choice, correct, not the town's?
Well,
choice?
the town I came from, it was an ordinance in the town, where if you developed that 100 acres, you were required by ordinance to set aside 3 to 5% of that property. It's, a lot of times, it was unbuildable property. I mean, it wasn't really desired property, but that was your green space, and that was always set aside for either immediate renovation or down the road renovation of some sort of green space park.
Right, and it just seems that, sorry, but Indiana, and I have come from Illinois, I have come from Massachusetts, where I was involved in politics out east. That Indiana seems that, as long as people build stuff and that they can get as rich as they want, and that they really don't need to give back to the community for which they are reaping their profits from. And I think, for the board, that's really something. In Massachusetts, you have to also put in the highway, the roads going to your place, and consider if it's a big project of, like, nobody's doing anything with 93rd now. I mean, I live in Lantern Woods. I can't get to 41. I have to go around the other way to get to 41. And there doesn't seem to be a plan to expand 93rd. That I really feel also agree with you that there needs to be people who come in and build these massive things and bring in a lot of people, also contributed to the upkeep of roads and parks. I mean, somehow in Lantern Woods, there's a park there, so somebody way back when decided that there should be some property set aside for it, which was the right thing to do. So, just as a
I like the idea. I think it's a good idea.
I mean, it wasn't, if you wanted to do a project, that was a required,
So
a requirement.
some thought needs to be gone into, and I agree with that, in every state is different. But if other towns next to us are requiring the builder, the developer to put in the roads and put in the infrastructure, and we're paying it through our tax dollars instead of them, well, that's ridiculous, right? So that needs to be looked into. So I agree with that, so.
And my only other question was, Mike, I saw and I have a copy of your request for some of the funds that are left over from COVID. I don't know if the rest of our board has the requests that you made. I think it would be pertinent that they see with the money that will be made available, what you're thinking about, what you're doing, or what you're trying to accomplish.
The ones I did recently?
Yeah, the one that came in front of the entire.
The
Oh.
ARPA
The
request.
ARPA request.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean, I've got a copy, but I mean, I think everybody else should have a copy so that they kind of know what your wish list
Okay.
was moving forward. I mean, I know it's not been decided yet, but some of what we may decide or at least think about in the future may depend on some of that.
yeah,
We just do that by consensus.
okay.
We took a vote last time. I think it's probably best that we did that. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, before we go into public comment, there's one last action item I'd like to have you consider, is the dates and times for the regular committee meeting. If you guys could decide on that and vote that as a matter of record.
I like Tuesdays. That's kind of what we're doing the last few years.
Tuesdays, okay. And
We had it at 7, I think, before, then we always were after everybody. We didn't get out until 9:30. So that's why we moved it up to 5. I like the 5 o'clock time because people have to work. They can kind of get to the 4s a little early. But I mean, I can make it, but I mean, I think 4 or 5 on a Tuesday, like the third Tuesday, how we kind of did it.
4 is generally too early for me, but 5 is wonderful.
That's-
Is that a motion?
I can't make a motion, but I can entertain a motion, but I was just kind of bringing up, I don't know how we have to handle it, like,
I make a motion that we set our meetings on is it the fourth Tuesday?
third
Third?
Tuesday?
What did you already have planned when you sent out the original email? You had dates in place. Was
Well,
that-
we had the Tuesdays already in place. I think we had the fourth Tuesday, we had the fourth Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, why was that? That was because
That was probably because.
there was somebody who had the third Tuesday, I thought.
There is, you got
Yeah.
water and sanitary.
Yeah, that's what it
At
was.
5. So that's why we went with the 4th.
So we're looking at the fourth Tuesday.
So if we do 5 o'clock on the fourth Tuesday, unless you want to do the third, and it could be 4, but I know that's kind of early though.
4th sounds good.
Make the motion that we have our meetings on the fourth Tuesday of every month at 5 PM.
I'll second that.
All right, Dave,
Yes?
Barb,
Yes.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
and Mike.
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. Public comment?
Hi, my name's Tom Adamek, 9401 Chestnut Cove, St. John. I don't know, I think, Mike, you were on the previous board. I want to thank you personally. My wife and I went over to the skate park the other day. We're not skaters. I play pickleball, but no skating for me. It is one of the nicest skate parks, probably in Indiana and maybe Illinois. I lived in Dyer where they spent almost $1 million putting a skate park in on Hart Street. And it's not even comparable to the parking lot that is done over there. You guys did a fantastic job on that. It's unbelievable. If you haven't been there, go see it. It is, I was there and kids were showing us what they were doing. It's amazing. And like I say, I'm not a skater. I am a pickleball player, and I would like to see pickleball courts come into St. John. It is the #1 game being played right now.
I think you're going to get your wish sooner.
Well,
I agree with
that's the only thing, but I think from what I'm seeing in St. John, when we award contracts out, we need to start putting completion dates on it.
Totally agree.
Because the Gates Park on the west end of the soccer field, they started that about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but that project was already approved months ago, so they
Yeah,
were
but
waiting
I'm-
on the material to arrive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, that is phenomenal for the kids there. The Founders Park is going on 3 years.
Yeah,
That's uncalled for,
it's ridiculous, yes.
okay? And I have one more question is, why are we considering hiring an advisory committee when you guys are the advisory board? You're gonna pay somebody $20,000 to tell you we need 6 pickleball courts, we need basketball courts, when you already have a 5-year park plan. Why are you gonna hire somebody to do that? The other thing is, you're also hiring a company that would be a conflict of interest, because he is on the zoning board here for the town of St. John, his company.
Really?
So I think it's a conflict of interest. And then if you were going to do that, if that's what you desire to do, you should put that out for bid for companies to come in and bid it. We'll keep awarding people $20,000 contracts for things that everybody in here knows what this town needs. That's all I have to say, and thank you. Perfect on that skate park. Thanks.
Well, I put any and all, anything else?
Well, I do have one other thing. I know the previous board had talked about memorial benches. Is that something that got started? Is that still part of what we're looking to do?
Yeah, we actually we'll have 3 here soon. 2 is at Prairie West those were purchased actually early summer, I think, late spring. And then we just had another one purchased for the Gates Park over by the playground just recently. So we'll have 3. We have a form online. It's on the park page too.
Well, all right, but I know we have a memorial tree board too, or a tree thing too. That's part of the
Yeah, we have a bench and tree
Right.
program. Yeah.
So I mean, could we tie that into this Tree USA thing?
With a tree, I'm sure you can. Yeah.
I'm just, I know from previous meetings that was discussed, and it was, it basically drew logical approval.
Yeah.
Without official approval, so
Yeah,
to speak.
sure,
I think
sure.
the board, I think the actual bench thing got approval, right, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, but I don't know if you guys ever discussed the whole memorial tree thing.
I don't think we ever got
That far.
And I know we discussed it, but I don't remember how far we got.
Right.
But I mean, that
Well,
would
the
be,
tree, you're talking about like there is a memorial tree.
right, we have some already. That was my point.
Right, but like how tied in with you're talking about tying it in with the Tree City?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as a way to A, fund it, and B, just, get the word out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, the bench was a great idea.
Yeah.
And, the tree, a memorial tree thing might be a great idea too.
You might want to contact some of the organizations I know. The Lions Club also is into planting trees and has that as part of their international program thing, and they might be able then to help and, do some rah-rah work for us.
Sure.
One thing about the benches, I know we brought this up about the Founders Park, the guy who like deeded that over, gave it to the town. I know before we were wanting to try to give him something, and it was brought up at one of the meetings that possibly getting one of the memorial benches that
Oh.
we could buy from,
Oh, sure.
whether it's the town or the park, however.
Yeah, sure,
So one of those bench have their family name on it. Like he seemed really excited about that idea.
Oh,
When
okay.
we mentioned that, I don't know if that's still a possibility.
That's a great idea.
That sounds nice.
appropriate, sounds
Yeah,
appropriate.
sounds nice.
I mean,
The least you could do.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
At Whiting Park, which I think is a beautiful park, but they have all, the benches are all, purchased by somebody in memory of somebody, and I thought how nice that was, and a unique way of being able to get the benches and.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, go to adjournment and then voice vote. Say aye.
motion to adjourn.
Second, Barbara Tusley.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, now before all of you gentlemen leave.
You should have taken.
who are